Hello.
I mean, this is a pro. It normally takes us about 5 minutes, but
Oh no, I mean, I've got used to doing these now. I always have that moment where I'm like, oh my God, it's not going to work. But, it's all good.
hello. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I'm going to give
Hi.
a proper introduction with the big up.
I'm going to turn you up so I can hear you.
Today, we're joined on Albright's Instagram Live by the UK health and fitness industry guru, Alice Living, a woman with many strings to her bow. She's only 27. How is this so, Alice? I'm almost 20 years older than you. Qualified as a personal trainer just 5 years ago, but in that time, I would say she has been building her empire. So her own mini health and fitness business, writing best-selling books. She hosts her own podcast, Will Give Me Strength, and she has designed an activewear collection with retail giant Primark, of some of which I own. And I can say it actually, as well as looking great, actually works when you're working out, which a lot of work
well, that is good to hear.
He also shares this know-how as a columnist for Women's Health magazine, and lately she has been hosting workouts on their YouTube channel, as well as a ton of free content. We're going to get onto that in a bit about how that works from a business perspective on Instagram every morning. And you are part of my fitness smorgasbord of Barry's, BX. I'm doing the lot every day.
Love it.
Now, she's also talked very publicly about her own experience of domestic abuse, and she is an ambassador for the charity Women's Aid, which is an organisation that works towards ending domestic violence. So we are thrilled to have Alice with us. I'm only allowed half an hour because at 5 o'clock, she is very kindly going to be hosting a special Albright Meets Alice mashup workout on our Instagram Live channel. She is ready. I am not ready. Right, so Alice, let's get started. How have you managed during lockdown? What's the Alice setup?
Well, I think, I was saying this to, and I've been asked this many, many times over the last couple of weeks, but I think, at the start of this period, if you've said to me, how are you going to cope with spending upwards of 2 months in lockdown, not able to go to the gym, which is like my first love, and be able to do all those things that we're so used to doing and taking for granted, I really panicked. And definitely in that first week, I had that horrible feeling of, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to cope with this. But I think we're all of us as humans are very adaptable, and all of us have sort of found a new way of living and found a new normal. And I think the good thing about this situation is there are so many positives that can be taken from how we find ourselves right now. And there are many things that have been challenging, and there are many things that I have found particularly challenging, in terms of I'm not able to do my job properly, in terms of being on the gym floor, not able to see my friends and family.
Talk through, I have my own trainer who I'm used to training with in person. Tell you as a client how it feels to move to Zoom training, which I'm now really used to, but the first few weeks were so. How is it for you as an guru?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely challenging, but I think again you just adjust and adapt. I think the one thing that I find really hard as a trainer, and I get this with my live workouts as well, is that I want to be very hands-on. I want to see exactly what someone's doing, and I want to see, how every part of their body is moving. And sometimes when you've got a tiny screen, or sometimes when I'm teaching classes and I can't see anyone, I find it really hard to the control freak in me has to be like, whoo, and just pray that everyone's doing everything properly. But for the most part, it has been fine. So yeah, I think back to your first question, I have found it, as I'm sure everyone has, challenging at times, but for the most part, it has been, it's been fine. And I've found a new way of living that seems to be actually pretty good.
Are we all getting fitter during lockdown?
Oh, such a good question, because I think there's definitely a feeling that people are, and I think it's a natural thing that when something is taken away from us, we want it so much more. So with things like the gym and even being able to get outside and exercise, so when we weren't even allowed out for longer than an hour a day, I think people really went into panic mode thinking, oh, hang on a second, I'm not able to do that thing that sometimes falls quite low on my priority list, but I know that I do actually enjoy. And so, yeah, I've personally seen a massive shift in people really prioritizing their movement and their exercise way more than before. And I think it's for a number of reasons. I think firstly, I think people recognize that it has much more of an impact on their mental well-being than perhaps it did before, in terms of it helps to boost their mood in a time when there aren't, you know, a hell of a lot of things to be grateful or thankful for or to feel good about. But the second thing is also it gives a really good structure to the day. I think, you know, a lot of my clients are getting up first thing in the morning, doing some exercise, and then feeling as though that sets them up in a positive mindset to then carry on with their day. And, you know, we know that exercise is linked to boosting our mood, but also our cognitive function. So doing something first thing in the morning that can really put you in a good mindset to then have a productive day is going to be a really great way to start the day when you're just in your flat or in your house and you're not able to kind of get out and move around and distract yourself with other things.
How do we keep it up once we're allowed out of here? Do you feel like it's going to change people's mindset and routine if they didn't previously commit to exercise in that way, but in lockdown become part of how they get through the day? How do people keep it up?
So I think, you know, in life we have, and I always talk to my clients about this, we all have a list of priorities within our life. So for me right now, I don't have kids and I don't have, you know, I don't have a lot of other priorities that some people rank higher than that. So for me, I can make exercise a big priority and a non-negotiable within my day. And right now, for a lot of people, that can be the case. It can be that, you know, their job takes up X amount of hours a day, but they are able to devote an hour or less than that, whatever time they have, to exercising. Now, of course, that might change when we leave lockdown. You know, we know that people's work schedules are probably going to go a little bit busier. We know that people are going to probably have less time because they're going to be socializing as they should. So I think it's just about addressing your priorities and really figuring out where exercise sits within all the other things that you want to commit to. And so with my clients, I sort of say, you know, family's one thing, socializing is another thing, work is another thing. Where does exercise fit in with that? And depending on where it is in terms of a priority to you, if you think it's pretty high, then look at your week and say, where can I fit this in? You know, we know that people are busy. A lot of my clients have high-powered jobs and are working all of the hours. So there are times when it just isn't possible, and that's okay. But when you can, where can you fit it in? And I think the second part of that question, 7 weeks. So really making sure that you find a way of moving, and that could be various different things. It could be you do a bit of yoga and a bit of high intensity training, whatever, but find things that you enjoy. And then secondly, make sure that it's like that it's kind of associated to the goals that you want to achieve. So I think that's really important, that sometimes people just exercise without really thinking what it's going to bring for them. And that could be as basic as, I just want to feel better. Great. So choose the exercise that aligns with what makes you feel best. That could be that you want to run a marathon. So make sure that you're devoting enough of your training each week to running. You know, it's not crazy, you know, crazy things, but I think just really simple things that help you to focus on exercise being a priority, and then within that, what can I decide to do that's going to fit with my goals.
So you've been at this for 5 years, and the fitness industry has been through a lot of change over the last 5 years. You started life clean eating Alice, but you chose to drop the clean eating bit. And why was that? And was there a specific pivot moment for you in terms of the way that you thought about your own relationship to wellness and fitness, and that you would at your brand?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely was a shift within myself, and I think it was something that I went through privately first and then talked about publicly. But it was definitely that, you know, 5 years ago, health was a very different concept to what we see it as now. And my perception of health, absolutely, when I started out, was I need to be in a really small body and have a six-pack and look like I am really ripped and fit. When in actual fact, you know, the sacrifices that I had to make in order to get to that place were beyond what I would now consider healthy. And so it was at a point where I sort of had to really address my own perception of what I thought as healthy, of the relationship that I had with both exercise and food and my body, I started to have a much greater appreciation for the fact that exercise wasn't just about the physical, it was about, you know, the mental side of things too. And that actually in general, mental health had a far bigger priority for me than I had once realized. And so, as a brand, as a person, I just thought, you know, not only did I not really align with the clean eating kind of movement anyway, and that like, you know, I'd never sat there and said, you need to cut this out, or you need to do this, or you need to, you know, I wasn't hugely prescriptive with my messaging, but I just felt like that as a movement just was so wrong in many ways. And that like, it's just, health is so much more complicated and nuanced than people want it to be. People want health and fitness and, you know, whatever to be very black and white and very simple, and that there's like a silver bullet that we can all take that's going to make us, you know, suddenly glow with health and wellness. But it's really not that simple. And so what I wanted to do was just take a much more realistic approach. And, you know, how I approach both health, fitness, diet, everything now is with a much more kind of relaxed approach, because I know that, like, you know, I've been there and worn the t-shirt of not really having a life and sort of having the body that I dreamed of, and realizing that it didn't bring me the happiness that I thought it was going to. So yeah, I think I sort of moved back from that and thought, you know, and it goes back to that thing of priorities as well. My body became less of a priority, and therefore my goals shifted, and my approach to everything shifted. And, you know, I have a much more kind of down to earth and relaxed approach to everything now. And I'm so much better for it.
Has Instagram changed, do you think, over the last?
Yeah. I mean,
do that, because it's so fascinating for me to see you, amazing kick-ass women, 20 years my junior, forging your own brands and businesses through this medium, feeling often like, oh God, that must be taking it out of you. It's so public. It's the algorithm is everything you're expecting. How has that changed? What's your relationship with Instagram been like over that 5-year journey? Where do you see it now versus where it was when you started?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, so that was over 5 years ago now, I mean, it was just such a friendly, happy place. It was like there wasn't as many there wasn't as many members, sorry, or people using the platform as there is now. And, you know, it was just this tiny little thing that I started my page, and I'd have a few people comment on stuff, and it was so different to what it's like now. I mean, even I can't believe, you know, the progression of the platform and where it is now compared to where it was. So I've definitely had to learn as I go along. And I think one of the things you mentioned was in terms of, you know, it demands so much of your energy, and it's very easy to get sucked up in, I need to give more and more and more of myself to try and boost myself up that algorithm, to try and make sure that I'm getting new followers. And you can be a bit of a slave to, like, you know, the currency of sort of likes and followers. And, you know, it's something that I have definitely done in the past, and felt as though, you know, I have drained myself of all of my resources by just trying to give everything to this platform. And, you know, it doesn't feel that great. And I love what I do, and I love this platform, and I feel so grateful that I have it. But I love it more when I have boundaries with how much I let people in and how much I give of myself back. So I think being clear about those and making sure that, you know, I don't spend every hour of the day scrolling Instagram, and that I don't, you know, there are little things like, something I don't think many people talk about is because you are your brand, it feels so personal when you have highs and lows. So like, if I lose followers, that feels really personal to me. I'm like, what did I do?
Oh,
and
wow.
I know, and it feels like a real personal attack. Whereas, you know, if you're a business, you know, if your business isn't doing so well, you can look at, okay, well, what happened in our strategy? Or, you know, there are ways in which you can sort of pivot the blame. Whereas when something happens on here, I'm like, oh God, you know, what's wrong with me? So that can feel really hard, and it definitely does come with emotional highs and lows. But for the most part, I think, you know, what I love about my platform is I use it to educate, and I use it to put out a message that I am passionate about. So I feel as though those two things really help me to focus on, I'm giving a lot of great stuff, I hope. And it's not all about me and who I am. And I think that's quite nice to have that boundary.
That all sounds very disciplined. You have to do work to get there, because that's a very sort
of...
Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, yeah, it's hard. And I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Albright, we're all about the sisterhood, as I think you know, because you've been
Yeah.
to things, and we have sisterhood works written in neon in the entrance halls and in the UK and in the US. And I know about that you have a very good support network, and they have helped you overcome everything that we all need to overcome. But in your specific case, an abusive relationship, some of the issues around body image that we've discussed, being your mum in particular. Just explain what sisterhood means to you and the support network means to you and who's in your tribe.
Yeah, I mean, I think as women, definitely. And I think particularly what I've noticed over the past sort of, maybe since I've been doing like all of the stuff online, I've noticed that like female friendships have had much more of an importance to me, and I've valued them way more than maybe I previously did. I'm someone that naturally probably gets on with guys a little bit better, and that's always been the way that I've been. And I've never been someone that really has like a huge group of girlfriends, and I've always wondered why that was. And I think sometimes we as women are expected to have like our tribe, and sometimes if you don't have that, it can feel like, oh my god, am I doing something wrong, am I an awful person because I don't have that. But then I think, you know, definitely over the last 5 years, I've because of some of the stuff that I've gone through, and because of you know, the way that I've grown on here and whatever, I have found amazing friends that are, you know, my tribe, and who I feel like really support me through this. And yeah, you're right, it's not always that it's friends, it's my mom, it's sometimes it's colleagues, it's people that I work with. You know, I have an amazing management team who support me, and I think that's really helpful, particularly when it comes to all the stuff that goes on here. I have, you know, amazing girlfriends. I have an amazing partner who really does, like, you know, see the good, the bad, and the ugly with me when I'm having good and bad days, as I'm sure everyone's partner does. But, you know, being there to support me, you know, in whatever state I'm in. So I think that's been really important. But I think, you know, the most important thing for me over the last couple of years has been learning to ask for help, and learning to open up, rather than, you know, I'm so, and as I'm sure many of us are, I'm so fearful of failure in any way that for me, you know, keeping everything to myself means that there's no danger of me seeming as those things might be slipping out of my control. And that's like a really problematic mindset to fall into, because, you know, like, I liken it to like being like a pressure cooker, as I'm sure, you know, many people can experience, which is when you hold stuff in, that at some point you're going to blow. And, you know, if you let steam off every now and then, it's so much more helpful at keeping a steady, even mindset and mood. So yeah, I'm trying to be better at opening up. And I've had, you know, I've started therapy as well, which I think has been a really interesting thing that I, you know, put on my stories the other day, that previously I would have never seen a therapist, because I was like, God, no, well, I don't need that. Why would I need that? But there are definitely things that I realized that I needed help to work through and to manage. And actually, it's been one of the best things that I can do, to just speak to someone completely impartial.
Do you enjoy? I absolutely. I have been seeing my therapist for such a long time on Friday afternoons, and the dread starts to set in for me on Friday morning. I know I've got to go and sort of be held accountable.
Yeah.
You look forward to it? Is it hard work? What's it like?
Yeah. It's a weird looking forward to, in that, like, for me, again, going back to that fear of failure, I don't like talking about things that aren't good. I don't like saying, oh, you know what, I had an argument with this person, or I feel bad about this. I'm not very good at sharing that sort of stuff. I like to sort of keep everything really positive and happy, and as if everything's going great. So for me, it's nice to have someone that's completely impartial, that I can say those things to without judgment or fear of judgment. And I think that really helps me. But it's a weird look forward to, because often I leave and it's, you know, or the session finishes and I sort of have these things in my head where I'm like trying to connect the dots of, okay, well, that happened and this happened, and why did I behave like that? You know, there's so many things, and it leaves you with a lot of thought. And, you know, I think that's only a good thing. I think it's good to be introspective and think about how we behave and react to things. But yeah, I definitely have found it beneficial. Whether I look forward to it or not is another matter.
Women's Aid and the work that you do with them. Obviously, this is Mental Health Awareness Week, and we're going to come on to that a little bit. But just that a bit. You know, we think they're an amazing organisation. We've done work with them ourselves through Albright. What does it mean to you personally to work with them, to be an ambassador for them?
Yeah, I mean, so I was in an abusive relationship when I was only 16, so I was really young, and it was physically and emotionally, well, in every way abusive, and ended really traumatically in that, you know, the worst thing that you can think can happen, which is that, you know, someone turned up at he turned up at my school and attacked me in front of all of my school friends. You know, that I felt like I'd reached that rock bottom, and it was the most shameful thing at the time that could ever have happened to me, and it took me so long to build myself back from then. And you know, on reflection, and when I was able to deal with those emotions, one of the things that I felt I could have probably helped me at the time was that I didn't really recognize some of the signs of what were abusive, you know, behaviors, particularly as it being one of my first relationships. There were certain things that were happening where I was like, you know, now I look back and think, God, that was so wrong. But at the time, I just didn't really realize or connect the, you know, a lot of the time with perpetrators or people that commit domestic abuse, you know, a lot of their behaviors are seen as almost, oh, they must love me so much, they must really care about me because they check my phone all the time and they always want to know where I am. And you know, I think why I feel so passionate about working with Women's Aid is, you know, I think particularly from a younger age, teaching young women and girls what constitutes a healthy relationship is so crucial to them not falling into a pattern of being in abusive relationships and seeing that as the norm. And they do amazing work, you know, everything from their helpline, which they run every weekday from 10 till 12, which is a kind of online chat service that they've developed, which means that, you know, for a lot of women who are stuck in abusive relationships, they can't pick up the phone and speak on a helpline because they're perpetrators in the room, particularly now as well. So having that chat service is amazing, but also, you know, even just getting women into refuges, all of the work they do in terms of helping survivors as well. So they have their survivors forum, which is a place where all survivors of domestic abuse can talk and interact with each other and share experiences in a way that will hopefully help them to kind of get over what's happened to them. But yeah, they're an incredible charity, and I'm so honoured to be an ambassador for them.
Let's talk a little bit about Mental Health Awareness Week. Everybody has days where they don't feel very motivated or confident in themselves or their abilities. What's your advice about being kind to ourselves? There's a lot of conversation on Instagram at the moment about self-care. What does that really mean? What can we do? At Albright, we're all about the inspiration. So amazing women like you on our platform every day, inspiring. What we also want to know is that's great. And then when I wake up in the morning, what are the 3 things that I need to do as well as being inspired?
Yeah, I think it's tricky, isn't it? Because I think self-care has become a bit of a buzzword, but actually I think it means so many different things to different people. And I think the more we try and put it into a box as being, you know, one thing, the more it kind of writes off a lot of other things for people that can be really beneficial. So, you know, for me, self-care is very much that I think and feel that my body, you know, and my mind are very good at telling me what to do, and I need to tune into those and listen to those as much as possible. So, you know, as someone that loves to exercise, if I wake up and my body doesn't feel quite right and I feel a bit tired, listening to that and saying, take a day off, like chill, relax, you don't need to do that. Or, you know, I'm one of those people that has a constant self-critic inside of me, which is like really exhausting sometimes. And so sometimes just trying to quieten that voice and say, you're doing okay, you're doing a good job. But for me as well, self-care can be really basic things. You know, it's having a bath at the end of the day and taking, you know, 10 minutes just to listen to a podcast and relax, or seeing friends and having, you know, a glass of wine on a Friday night and just relaxing and enjoying yourself. I just think it can be so many different things that, you know, I just encourage people to feel that, you know, don't see it as a prescriptive thing. Try and find your own things that just make you feel better in yourself. And I think mental health is so complicated and such a big topic that, you know, what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for the next. So it's about you tuning in with your brain and your mind and your person and saying, what are the things that serve me best and what make me feel my best?
What are your thoughts on the body positive movement? Feels like, again, a point on the journey through Instagram over the last 5 years, we've come a long way. But what do you think about that? Is there more work to be done in allowing women to love and accept their bodies, whatever their size? Reflect on that a little bit, Alice.
I think there's always more work to be done in that space, because I think we are, you know, we feel like we've come quite far, but I think there is so much further we can go in terms of helping women to release the pressure that we put on ourselves to look a certain way. I think, you know, in terms of body positivity, I think nothing is more important than people feeling as though they're seen. I think visibility is so key. And, you know, I was having a really long conversation with my boyfriend about this, about, you know, I feel really sad about the fact that many girls give up sport and exercise very young compared to boys. And there are many reasons why that happens. But I think one of the things is, you know, we don't see in campaigns, in the media, and you know, perhaps I'm part of this issue, but we just don't see a variety of bodies, a variety of women doing the exercise and actually really doing it. You know, I think if you see someone like you doing something, you are so much more likely to then take that up or give it a go or feel confident enough to really do that. And I think actually one of the things that I have seen, particularly during lockdown, is people really starting to realize that there's more to life than their body. I've seen people just start to say, hang on a second, there's a really serious issue going on, and me, you know, being in a slightly bigger body, or, you know, not being a size 8, or, you know, whatever, actually doesn't really matter that much anymore. And the more that we start to encourage that conversation of we are so much more than our bodies, and we place so much focus on the way we look in life, and still now we place so much focus on how we look, how we dress, what our hair does, what our makeup does. But actually, and you know, and that's one thing I love about Albright, it's like, what do we as women bring to the table that go beyond all of that stuff? We are not just the way I look and the way I dress. I am Alice, and I've done all of these amazing things, and I'm really proud of myself for that. And those are things that I'm going to celebrate about myself and bring to the table, rather than, oh, look, she's wearing a lovely dress. Like, do you know what I mean? Or she's got a, you know, look at her, she's this size, or she's that size. I just think, you know, the more we can celebrate things that go beyond just the way we look, the better it's going to be. And I think body positivity really plays into that. And I think there are so many amazing voices within that space, and I wouldn't say I'm one of them, but I think I look up to amazing voices within that space that are doing such incredible work to really champion and make women feel confident in themselves, whatever they look like, you know, whatever shape or size they are.
Well said. Although I do want to know how you curl your hair. It always looks amazing.
Do you know what? I get asked that so much. I mean, I haven't washed my hair in a good few days, and because it's so hot and I'm just getting really sweaty doing my workouts, I've gone for a slip bun, but I just use GHDs. I've taught myself to be really good at doing it.
Right, I feel like you and I could go on for a while.
Forever.
Not going to have time. The one that I feel I do need to ask you, and I'm sure you get asked this all the time, is if you were going to give 3 tips to someone looking to build a business, a brand through using Instagram, what would you say? What are the 3 things that somebody needs to think about if they're trying to build that strategy?
Yeah. I think the first thing is, just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean you can't do it too. So I think often we have this real imposter syndrome of, oh, but they do that really well, so I can't do that, you know, in any space. And I think don't be put off by other people dominating your space. There is always room for more success. And I think, you know, just don't be put off by that. The second thing I would say is, you know, drop the comparison. I am the worst person for this, and I compare myself all the time, and it's my, you know, my biggest bugbear with myself. Sometimes I have to really check myself and say, stop comparing yourself to other people. But I really think it can hold you back from doing things. If you're constantly looking at what other people are doing, you lose focus on your journey and your path. So I think really trying to encourage people to do that. And the last thing I would say is, you've got to be passionate about what you do. You know, I have spent 5 years posting on Instagram about exercise. I would not have been able to do that if I didn't love it. So make sure that, you know, don't go after something for you know, for the wrong reasons. Just make sure that ultimately at the core of everything you do, you are passionate and you have a message that you want to share and a purpose. And I think if you have that, that can overcome so many, you know, challenges that you might face along the way, because ultimately you have that at your core and you're ready to kind of spread your message no matter what comes at you.
Amazing. Right, 2 quickies. Exercise power move. If you could only do one thing, what would you do?
Oh, it would have to be for me the deadlift.
And now I did not say the burpee.
No.
About this amazing access to fabulous content during lockdown is I have really buggered my back from just burping. A lot of burpees in lockdown would be my observation. And final question, what's the first thing that you're going to do when we get out of here?
Well, I haven't seen, my parents went to New Zealand about 3 months ago for a month, and they came back just before we locked down. So I've not seen them in like over 3 months, which is crazy for me. I'm really close with my mum and dad, so I'll definitely see them first. But my second thing is I'm so desperate for a pedicure, it's untrue. So I'm really, really desperate for a pedicure.
Right, now Alice is going to be back in 30 minutes time, and she's taking over our All Bright Instagram account for a very special 30-minute full body session. So everyone, you've got a moment to get ready. Come back and join us soon. Everyone's asking me whether we're saving it to IGTV.
Yes, I will do. I'll do that for you, don't worry.
Okay. Alice, thank you so much.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure talking to you. Everyone else, please don't forget to check out our website, allbrightconnect.com, for full listing of events. We have got, of course, no one as brilliant as Alice today, but lots more coming. It's been the most amazing week to have everyone from Ruby Rax to Rose McGowan to Alice to Rankin to the whole 9 yards, and we're not through it yet. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.